And hello, all of you wonderful car lovers out there, and welcome to the C&C Auto Show. And I am Aaron Clements.
I'm John Ryan.
And our goal is to share some sweet information with you that will make your car, truck, or SUV safer and to make it more dependable and to make it last longer for less money and less hassle, I might add. And, of course, you can do that by gaining knowledge. Knowledge will help you to feel better about having your car repaired. We want to say thank you to all of you that tuned in and logged in. We really do appreciate you jumping in and riding with us in the C&C Auto Show. And we are here to take your phone calls. And that's Saturday mornings, 8:05 to 10 Eastern Time. And that number is 706-863-5800. All you have to do is pick up that phone, smile, and dial, and we will help you any way that we possibly can. You can also watch the show live. Or email a question or watch past shows. That's all at ccautoshow.com. And this show's brought to you in part by NGK Spark Plugs and plus a whole list of other really nice businesses. And the number again, 706-863-5800. And today's show title is See and Be Seen. And we'll be talking about how drivers can see better at night and just at other times also, and they can also be more visible to their fellow motorists. And we'll also give you some tips on how to just drive safer and avoid accidents at night and, well, pretty much any time. We also have a tech tip quiz. And John Ryan, did you know that we had a special guest?
I did.
Yeah, and this special guest that we have today, we both know this person.
And work with them.
Yeah, and we do. We share information, and he does a lot of things for us, and helped me a huge amount over the years. And this is Michael Rivers of Bo's Machine Shop. Michael, welcome to the C&C Auto Show.
Good morning.
And welcome, and we are here to talk about some a special thing for most any shop, and I guess it'd be safe to say that every successful automotive repair shop has a successful and good machine shop behind them.
You have to.
You have to. You have to have that. And Michael, well, Bo's Machine Shop's one of the nicest machine shops that I know of. It's clean, it's air conditioned, and the thing that I really like is it's full of really nice equipment.
Yep.
It's got a lot of nice equipment in there, and big machines too. I'm talking about big.
Oh yeah.
Bo's Machine Shop has been around for many, many years, and of course I've worked with them. Matter of fact, I knew Michael's father very, very well, and he was very knowledgeable also, and Michael's carrying on that wonderful tradition. Michael, why is all that equipment and that cleanliness and all the other things that you have there important?
Oh, well, naturally, it needs to be clean just to, you always want to keep contaminants out of your engine. It's just like keeping your oil changed and your filter changed. But the equipment's just a necessary part of the process. It's just like in your business, how you had to have your scan tools and whatnot. And just like the scan tools that you needed 5 years ago are completely obsolete today, probably, so... every year we try to update at least one piece of equipment to keep up with today's automobile's needs.
Well, that brings me to one of my questions that I was going to ask you. How important is the correct surface on things like a cylinder head or a cylinder block? And why does that surface need to be correct?
Oh, it's absolutely important. And just like the surface that we could get away with, say, 10 years ago is much different than what we need today. In years past, one of the most popular head gaskets was a composite head gasket. And you could get away with a lot coarser finish, more warpage with that gasket. Almost all cars today use what's called a MLS head gasket or a multi-layer steel. And this gasket prefers a much, much smoother finish, where the composite gasket you could get away with, say, a surface finish of 50 RA to 100 RA. Most MLS gaskets like a surface finish closer to 20, 25, in that range.
Right.
When I say RA, that's just it's like a measurement of surface finish. What RA stands for is roughness average.
Yeah, kind of like
a run out.
Like sandpaper would have their certain coarseness that they would have, and of course this is on a different scale. That would have a different coarseness, but also the amount of run out, the tolerance that you're label to have also is important and in there also.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So in same way, it kind of like what we look at when we're doing brakes and things like that. You're allowed a certain amount of tolerance that you can go into, but it has to be exact, and that makes the difference between on whether that head job that you're doing on your vehicle is going to last a long time or last a short period of time.
Absolutely.
Now,
it's always there is a service limit, but how close to that service limit do you want to go?
Yeah.
I like to get all the pluses in my side.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're allowed, say, 0.006 of warpage, do you really want to try to get away with that, or would you be better, say, making sure the head is perfectly flat? That way, if there's some distortion maybe in your block, the gasket can handle that.
Right.
Yeah. You want to get as close to that number as you can. Now, Michael, Bose has built pretty much all of our specialty engines that we get. For instance, you've done engines like ones for a Bandit Trans Am, MGs, Corvettes. It's just a long list of different engines that you've built for us. Every one of them has been successful. What's the secret to building a really good engine like that?
Well, every part has to be touched in some shape or form. You start off by completely disassemble it and getting everything clean. That way it can be properly assessed as far as what needs to be machined and what's within tolerance. And then you get you a good parts list together and just pay close attention to it the whole way. Normally if you just got to stay right on top of your toes and
quality
one thing
parts
is
too. I'm
qualified,
sure.
qualified help.
Yeah. And you do have that. Every time I go there, you have some really nice people there, and that part's good. And one of the things, I think the one that comes to mind, just the most recent one, and this is not that long ago, just a couple of weeks ago, is a Corvette engine that you built for us. That vehicle really sounded sweet. I got to admit, I took it out and did some driving after we were done, and it just had just the right cam. You said, Aaron, I can put a little bit of a beefier cam and kind of beef up the valve springs a little bit and do this and do that. And we got it in there, and it had just enough lope to it to where it wasn't a bad idle, but it was just a good sounding idle to that car. You could tell it had a little bit more power than original, so it really went well. And appreciate those wonderful engines that you build for us.
Well, that's always the goal.
Well, Michael, we are just about out of time, but I was going to ask you: is there a chance that you could give us a call back on during the second hour and us ask you a few more questions that we might have?
Oh, absolutely. I look forward to it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, and again, appreciate all the things that you do to help us as far as with the engines and also pressing certain bearings in. And I wanted all the listeners out there. The show plays in a lot of other places, but I wanted all of these places to know, and people that do work at home, that it is major important to have a good machine shop that you trust and you feel good about and that's knowledgeable, that you can go to as far as having things like heads resurfaced, bearings pressed on, engines built when you want one built. All of this stuff's major important, so we appreciate it, and we will be looking forward to you call on the next hour. And okay, time to take a quick break. We'll be right back, and we'll be going to Nick as soon as we return.
I've been driving all night, my hands wet on the wheel.
Oh man, I like that song. Beautiful. Okay, it's about cars.
Yeah, it is.
And we love cars.
Kind of the idea.
Yeah, man, it is. Okay, we are back with you, and we are ready for your phone calls, questions about your car, truck, or SUV. You just give us a call. And that number is 706-863-5800, and that's most any Saturday morning, 8:05 to 10 Eastern Time. You can also watch the show live or ask the question all at ccautoshow.com. And John Ryan, who will we be talking to now?
Let's go over to Nick.
Hello, Nick, and welcome to the C&C Auto Show. And what can we help you with?
Hey guys, I've got a '98 town car, 300,000 miles, and it's got a gremlin in it.
Ooh.
It started skipping last spring, summer, especially going up a hill, and no one can diagnose it. It's been put on every scan tool imaginable, so it's not throwing any code. Had replaced the coils in the spark plug about a year earlier, so it seemed like it subsided in the winter, in the colder weather. And I noticed last week going to Augusta on I-20, it started back, especially going up the hills again.
Nick, what speed range is it doing it?
Mostly around 55.
So 50 to 55 miles.
65, somewhere in there.
Okay. And just to describe the misfire, the skip, so you're going down the hill, it's running smooth, you start to climb the hill, and it just feels like a vibration, like we always describe it as a fish bite.
Well, just skipping. I don't know how to describe it.
Or is it more of just an uneven running, like a kind of?
No, it's a good skip.
It's a good miss. You can tell something's definitely missing then.
Yeah, so
Right.
there is, if it is a misfire, which it does seem to be a misfire, there's actually a parameter in the car's computer called Mode 6 data. And a lot of people, it can be easily forgotten or just overlooked, or some scan tools won't even access it. And it will actually show the history of each cylinder and what they contribute. Obviously, all of them should contribute 100%. Well, if it misfired even 20 miles ago, it still stores event data, and it will show the percentages that the cylinder has misfired. So Mode 6, or being able to access Mode 6, would definitely, kind of help a technician on that vehicle. Short of that, of course, putting a scan tool in it, one in particular, this would be the Ford IDS. It has a power balance graph that, of course, shows the firing lines of all 8 cylinders. And when you go drive it, of course, all of them sounds like they'll be flatlined and everything will look good, but it sounds like when you load the vehicle up at that speed range and going up a hill, one or more cylinders drops out, and of course that would be, obviously the graph would resemble that, whichever cylinder it is. That particular model, 98, I believe, 98 was kind of in between. Some of those had 2 coils with, of course, 4 plug wires on one side, 4 on the other, and then later on, 99, 2000, they went to each individual coil. Are you familiar with which ignition system you have?
It's got individual coils, I believe.
Okay, so yeah, no doubt one coil. Of course, we always replace the plug that goes along with it. It just depends on how many is misfiring, but that's what they would do. Put it, again, on Mode 6 data, see which one's misfiring, and then also they can actually scope the coil. If they have a oscilloscope, we can scope it and see what the firing line is, how much kV the coil puts out, how quick the burn time is. There's a lot of information from those few pieces of equipment, few expensive pieces of equipment.
So what you're saying is it might not show up on a regular scan tool, but
That
on
is
this other
correct.
Mode 6, it might, and that would indicate what, a bad coil or bad spark plug?
Yeah, most likely a bad coil. That's the more common. Of course, obviously.
Even though I've changed them out a year earlier?
Well, one thing that we mention a lot of times is new means new. It don't necessarily mean good.
Well, too, and something that comes to mind. I don't know if you ever notice if your coolant kind of raises and falls.
great
yeah,
thing, John Ryan.
The intake manifold can leak a little bit of coolant in the first 2 cylinders on the driver's side. Sometimes all of them, depending on how bad that is. On the passenger side, the heater hoses can leak coolant down in there, and of course, that would take a brand new coil out, obviously. So any kind of moisture or anything like that. And you mentioned, the scenario about it being worse in the summer. It seems to be coming back now. I mean, that could have something to do to it too. If it's just a minor leak in the summertime, it may leak more versus the winter. So.
Yeah, I had to change the intake manifold several years ago on this. I think they're pretty prone to going out on it.
They are. I'm sure you probably got the updated one with the steel housing rather than the plastic one like the old ones.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know what he put on it, to be honest with you.
Right.
So let me ask you this: 2 questions. So a defective ignition coil, it can be bad and not send the code.
Oh,
on
100%.
regular-
You could take 3 of the coils out, throw them in the trash, go drive it. The light wouldn't come on.
Okay. The other question is, there's a mechanic told me about these high performance coils. Are they any better?
Not in my
Regular
opinion, mainly because, I mean, you have to beef up everything else along with it. Of course, like an Excel coil, there's an Excel plug, but you're not going to get any gains from it. They're not going to last any longer. They claim to put out a hotter spark, but, you're not using race fuel. You're not going to be using any of the benefits that the aftermarket performance coils do, basically.
But they won't hurt your car if you put them on it.
No, they won't hurt it at all. And the only thing that we've seen in our experience, of course, they are sometimes less expensive than the aftermarket, direct replacements, but they just don't seem to last as long, to be honest with you.
Okay. So you said the coolant water could screw up the first 2 on the driver's side?
Yeah, right where your intake, the other intake you had was leaking right by the thermostat.
And the heater core, which one would it mess up?
It'd mess up the 2 rear on the passenger side.
2 rear on the passenger side.
And it's just if the heater hoses were leaking, of course, anything, or even rainwater, whatever it may be, any kind of moisture would allow the spark to go to the moisture rather than the plug.
And what
Gotcha.
when we're looking at the Mode 6 data, if we determine that one particular plug is misfiring, of course, that's one of the first things we do is pull the coil out and look down inside the hole and see if there's anything, either oil or coolant inside
And then even
there.
just to confirm that, we can swap it with another cylinder and see if it goes to that cylinder.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, other than the coolant leaking in the warmer weather, why would it misfire more in the warmer weather rather than the colder weather?
The only thing I can think of is if it did have a coolant leak. Of course, the hotter the vehicle gets, the more susceptible, or whatever that word is, to leaking.
And heat
heat,
increases
of course,
resistance.
increase. Yeah. So.
Okay. All right. So I need to concentrate on the coils and the plugs again.
Yeah, and Mode 6 data would definitely help.
Mode 6, what was that again?
Mode 6 data.
Okay, Mode 6 data, and they get that by hooking it up on what?
The same thing, just a regular or a scan tool with the capabilities to read Mode 6 data.
Okay.
All right, Aaron, we're ready for a
Okay,
break. I had to cut
well,
him off.
it is time to take a break. John Ryan, again, we put the little thing too far away for me to see. Who is that'll be coming up after the break?
That's going to be Kurt.
Hey, Kurt, we'll be going to
Kirk.
you right after the break, and we'll be right back with more of the C&C Auto Show.
My pappy said, son, you're gonna drive me to drinking if you don't stop driving that hot rod Lincoln.
And we are back with you on the C&C Auto Show. And if you have a question about your car, truck, or SUV, all you have to do is give us a call. That's on any Saturday mornings, 8:05-10 Eastern Time. And we would love to help you any way that we possibly can. You can also watch the show live at ccautoshow.com. It'll take you to the right spot. John Ryan, who will we be talking to?
Let's go over to Kirk.
Kurt, welcome to the C&C Auto Show. And I cannot see his car that he has, so I'm going to let you. What can we help with?
Yeah, 15
Good morning,
camera.
guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Very happy
Listen,
to.
You got
I
a
got
pair of glasses right there.
2015 Camry.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yep,
Yes,
hear you perfect.
yes.
15
Okay.
Camry.
And yeah, and it's got 23,000 miles on it. I bought it used, and yeah, I'm not driving it a lot. I'm making sure I get it out once a week to drive it around, just to keep everything moving. But until my old one dies, I'm not going to jump into this one every day.
So you got a backup.
First of all,
Yeah.
so I want to make sure, is it okay just to leave it sit there for a week?
I mean, that or we could drive it for you either way.
So you're kind of saving that last M&M for when
For-
the other
Yeah, for hard times.
the last one in the bottom of the bag. You're just sort of saving it to savor it.
Exactly.
All
So
right.
what I kind of do is I kind of drive the other one with the intention of getting every last dime out of it. I got 200.
Yeah, for sure.
I got 170,000 miles on it.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to drive it till it dies.
Well, Kurt-
and then when it
Kirk,
dies,
have you
I'll
ever
move into
thought-
the other one.
Have you ever thought about, kind of saving that one, maybe selling it and let somebody else get the goodie out of it? That way, you don't turn it into a boat anchor.
here's the difference. The difference is that it's a Honda Odyssey minivan.
Yeah.
And so I still use it to move stuff around.
So it's kind of the
You
truck.
know what I mean?
Well,
It's kind of the truck.
Yeah.
let me tell you what happens though, Kurt. Is I'll get this coupon and it'll be like $50 off, and I say I'm gonna wait till a really good thing off of a restaurant, a really good restaurant that you've been wanting to go to, and I say I'm gonna wait until it just the right time.
Say Valentine's Day.
So
or something
finally,
like
the right time comes, and I break the coupon out, and I said I'm gonna go ahead and use this thing, and it's got an expiration date of 2 days earlier.
that. Yep.
So be careful saving everything. Kurt, go ahead and enjoy yourself. Break the new car out, drive it, and have
Yeah,
a
but
ball.
what he's saying is he has a purpose for that one. That was the
Yeah,
truck.
but keep it and drive it when you need a truck, and
It's
bring the
kinda
new
like,
car
guys,
out.
Look at it this way. Look at it this way. I got one that I'm driving around every day, beating up, and the other one's my Sunday car.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's your hot rod.
But eat that last M&M, Kurt. It's
So
So yeah,
is that okay though? Or
yeah,
do I
it
just
is.
drive the
Yeah.
full-
You'll be fine.
Here's the biggest thing on it. Keep doing exactly what you're doing. Find a purpose for it, whether it be a Sunday car or whatever. But the most important thing is always, when you crank it up, let it get to operating temperature. Don't just crank it up, let it run for 5 minutes and shut it back off. You really want the oil to get to temperature, the coolant to get to temperature. If the oil never gets to temperature, it never thins out and never, I don't want to say this, that it won't, but it's just not as good for it because it won't get to the top of the engine like 3,000 RPM would, or driving it, to the store and back. That
drive
kind of
it to
thing.
the beach, Kurt.
Yeah, every
Enjoy
Sunday.
yourself, man.
Well, I take it on the highway at least once a week.
Yeah, that is perfectly fine for that one.
Okay.
Perfectly
And then I
fine.
got another question for you. The guy that I bought it from says that the dealer told him because of the oil that they use, the synthetic oil, you only need to change it every 10,000 miles. But when I take it to the guy that changes the oil, he says, "Oh no, we still recommend, even though you're using synthetic,
Yeah.
changing it every 5,000."
Well,
Yeah.
Kurt,
What is your guys' opinion on
Kurt,
that?
think about this. How long was it going to take you to put 10,000 miles on it?
At this rate,
Yeah.
5 years.
So would you get an oil change every 5 years? So no, I would, being that it doesn't sound like you're going to drive it much, I would stick to a 5,000 or annually on that one.
And Kurt, there are some vehicles out there that I would feel good about going 10,000 miles.
Well,
But they're
if it was driven all the time,
yeah,
too.
and that's if it was driven like it should. But that's very, very few, and they're sort of specialty type vehicles. On the average car, even though some of these cars have a maintenance light that might not come on for 7, 8, 9, 10,000 miles, and even though some of them say 8, 9, 10,000 miles, I would, just me personally, on most cars, I like 5,000 miles, even when you're using full synthetic.
Most late model cars.
That gives you a little leeway. Yeah, late model cars. Yeah, earlier model, conventional oil, a lot of times 3 months, 3,000 miles. And if you do the math on it, you're spending very little more money and you're insuring it. I've seen so many times people try to stick with or just go by the maintenance reminder light, something happened, and they go over on an oil change.
Yeah,
and
for the
cause a lot
cost
problems.
of a steak dinner, you could keep the car longer.
Yeah, I would, and not to mention that oil change is more than just oil change. It's a chance to inspect the vehicle,
Air the tires
air
up.
the tires up,
Check
and
the
let you know
battery.
if other things are coming due. So, yeah, I would stick with it. Now, in your case, you could probably go a year or 5,000 miles or something like that.
But you could get them sign those papers if we continue to drive it for them through the week. We'll take care of the oil
We
change.
could take care of that car for you, Kurt. I will personally
That'd be a
drive
good
it to the
loaner car.
beach. I will drive it to the beach for you.
Well, you know what? I'll keep that in mind. Thanks. But right now, I'm just going to let it sit in the garage and look pretty.
There you go.
Okay, that's what I did with that M&M, and it got hot and melted.
He's got this Camry on blocks, I can tell.
And my coupon expired, so I was lost. Kurt, we appreciate the call very much.
Hey, thanks for the information, guys. Take care.
Thank you. You too. Okay, the number to call 706-863-5800.
He's never calling again.
No,
Let's see if we
he
can
said I was talking about cars, and you talking about M&Ms. Man.
Let's see if we can squeeze Cliff in.
Let's do it. Hey, Cliff, welcome to the C&C Auto Show. Give us some help, please.
Good. Yes, good morning, gentlemen. I have a 98 GMC Sonoma, just turned 401,000 miles.
All right. Beautiful.
And it's Yeah, well,
No, that should be a clap.
Wrong button.
it started losing oil pressure, and then the telltale sign was blowing steam out of the side of the head. So I'm proceeding to take the head off, and I'm about there. But my question to you is, I'm pretty sure the head's warped and needs to be machined. If I put a straight edge on it, I realize that the tolerance on that is pretty small, but without professional tools, is it possible to see, what am I looking for as far as flatness goes? I realize it's probably only a few hundred thousandths of an inch. Or should I just take it into a machine shop and let them do it?
Cliff, I'm going to just give my opinion, and I'll get John Ryan's opinion. The other guy that was on the Camry, and he was going and trying to get every bit of the good out of the rest of the Camry engine. Now, I'm not talking about the engine. I'm not talking about the car now. And
Right.
you have reached that on that engine. My concern is if you remove that head and you spend all this money on time and effort and money on making the cylinder head perfect, you're going to put it on there. That's going to increase the compression, and the bottom end of that engine is going to go, phew, and then you're going to end up taking it back apart, and you're going to have to do it. If you were going to take something to the machine shop, I would take the whole engine, head, and everything out and take it in there and go ahead and spend the money right in the beginning, have the whole thing rebuilt, or get a remanufactured engine, whichever way that you would feel better doing. But then you would get a good job. The route that you're going, you're going to spend money and end up having to do it over again.
I of course agree with you. The only thing that may kind of put more eggs in your basket is those heads were notorious for cracking, which of course your naked eye is not going to see. So you may lay your straight edge on there, it looked perfect, you clean it up, put a head gasket on there, and find out the head's cracked. So it's the same boat, Aaron's talking about. And also to keep in consideration how, what was your method for cleaning the head surface? Were you going to use like a Roloc disc or what, method were you going to use to clean it up?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't even broached that
Okay.
yet.
Well, the only
reason
the only reason I was going to ask that is because, of course, if you did plan to do it yourself, there's a chance that you could cause more damage, by, of course, cleaning the cylinder head. Because, of course, obviously, the systems that they use to clean the cylinder head off is, of course, an abrasive disc, which it's very easy to, dip down a little bit, pull a little more metal off than you should. So regardless, as far as prepping the surface, I would say a machine shop. Mm-hmm. But then, again, you're still with the 300,000-mile long block or lower end.
We're iffy on doing a head job on a vehicle that's got even 200,000 miles on it. Now, it used to be we wouldn't do one with 100, but now 200, I've seen many, many successful jobs, but we're very picky about those. Hey, did that answer everything?
Yes, I got one more question.
Okay, can you hold just for a second?
Yeah, he's on hold.
Okay, hold, and we'll go back to him as soon as we return with the C&C Auto Show.
Before I hauled a Barbie doll bed for the girl next door. She tried to pay me with a kiss and I began to understand.
And something about a truck driving man. All right, welcome back to the C&C Auto Show. If your service advisor or technician tells you that you have a computer or sensor acting up, it would be great to know a little bit more about it. Well, all you have to do is go to the NGK Spark Plug USA YouTube channel, and they have videos on practically every sensor that you could think of, and they will tell you exactly how it works in words that you could understand, real clear messages. They're really good, and it'll help you make a much better decision by knowing how that sensor works and what it does. That's the NGK Spark Plugs YouTube channel, and you can give us a call, 706-863-5800, Saturdays, 8:05 to 10. John Ryan.
Let's go back to Cliff. He had
we
one
were
more
talking
question
to
for
Cliff.
us.
He had another question about his vehicle. Cliff, what is the next question that you had?
The question is whether or not how easy it is to determine whether or not the head is cracked. Could is that a machine shop?
That is a great question, because that was one that I was going to talk to Michael about when he called, the things that you're talking about, I hope you tune in for the second hour, because we're going to be talking to Michael about your question that you had here to make sure I'm answering it correctly. But John Ryan, what you think?
Yeah, it's definitely a machinist question for him. So,
Yeah.
And of course, that's really the only way to find out. But let's let Michael talk about the procedure.
In short, they pressure test it. We normally
they still magnaflux it, right?
And magnaflux it. Yeah. And sometimes pressure test it. But he'll be able to let us know for sure.
Yeah.
When we talk to him. So hopefully he's listening now. And if you tune in, but I definitely think that it is a good idea to have the head tested for cracks in the method, and that again comes into having a really good machine shop to work with.
The only other thing I can add to that too, Cliff, is just price of course, reman or a complete cylinder head also, just to kind of see where you're at as far as parts. And
it's about $1,700. I think if I went that route, that it would be parts in a new vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah,
I
no
appreciate
problem.
it.
Thank you. And I was going to mention to Cliff now, there's a big difference with him doing this work himself,
of course,
and a shop doing it. If he was paying somebody to do this job, I wouldn't take any chances. I would go ahead and get the whole engine. With him doing it himself, you got a little room. I mean, if you got the time to work with it and you say, I can do it, it adds a whole new dimension, because he's not investing as much money.
Yeah.
And he may even decide to, hey, I'll just take some chances here.
Roll the
clean
dice
the
on
head
it.
real good and look it over real good and put a head gasket on there. I don't think I
put
would,
a little extra torque on the torque.
yeah, I don't think I would do the valve job on it, because that would increase the compression. But there's some risk, but also you never know.
Going into it knowing it's a gamble, you might have a better
then
outcome.
you'll come out okay. But a regular shop would not come out good doing that.
No.
Okay, where we going?
That's when you own one of those.
Yeah, you do.
Let's go over to James.
Hey, James, welcome to the C&C Auto Show. And what can we help you with?
Good morning, gentlemen. On my 2003 Crown Victoria, I've been chasing a transmission leak underneath the car, of course. And what I've done is isolated it the best I could. I did a cleaning of the area, degreased it, cleaned the whole thing up, so I have a fresh start. And I don't believe I have a tail shaft or input shaft, you might call it, seal problem there. That's dry still. It's the highest point of the oil that I see now after the cleaning, and the farthest forward point is on one side of the output shaft, and it seems to be around this yellow-colored, I'm going to call it an inspection cover. It's about the size of your thumb.
Is it like a
with
plug?
a bolt in it on one end. And
Right.
I'm just curious, what's behind that? Is there a resealing process? Is there going to be a reservoir of fluid back there if I take it off? What do you know about that particular cover there, painted yellow on the tail shaft?
And it's got like a 10-millimeter bolt holding it in?
About that size, yeah.
That's actually a speed sensor hole. That's for the transmission had a few different tail housings on it. It could have of course, a vehicle speed sensor in that hole to monitor the tail shaft output speed. But this vehicle most likely is getting its reference for speed off of the wheels because it most likely has ABS. So the ones without ABS had a sensor in there to monitor, obviously, the output speed, and yours does not, so they put a plug in there with an O-ring. So most likely the O-ring is leaking.
And very little fluid will come out when you remove it.
Yeah, very little.
A little bit will, but not enough to speak of. And you could probably lay a little towel on the floor and it would catch 90% of what's going to come out when you remove that. And then, of course, putting a new O-ring on there and putting it back up there. And those tend to leak more if the vehicle is parked with the nose up just a little bit because the fluid will tend to flow back that way.
Well, this is this piece of metal here does not appear to be inset into the transmission case. It just seems to be it's oval and it lays on the outside of it. So would the O-ring be sitting in a channel that's on the outside surface, matching the perimeter of that yellow plate?
Yes, but it's more tapered into the tail housing itself.
So when I go look for that part, that O-ring, what am I calling that? Because I have searched it and I can't ever isolate that particular component on the tail shaft.
Honestly, I would try and get that from the dealer anyways, because it'll come with the plug. So if you told them you needed a vehicle speed sensor plug, they would pull up the transmission diagram, and chances are it's going to show the speed sensor and the plug, depending on which one is of course applicable. So they would have better luck. It's not something that you would generally find at a parts store. Just mainly because it's a little bit more specific to that particular car.
Unless you were just matching it up. I mean, if you took it off, you could get it at a parts store if you just matched it up.
Well, you could get just the O-ring, but I'm talking
just
about,
the O-ring.
I would get the whole plug and everything.
It would be a better idea to get the whole plug.
There's always a chance the plug has a very hairline crack in it, being a plastic plug,
maybe.
distortion, warped, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think in previous purchases from the dealership, this is to your point, they take that last 6 or 8 of the VIN, and they know exactly what that car is.
The build sheet on it and everything.
Guesswork out of it.
That's correct.
Good. All right, that's what I'll do. I'll talk to those folks. Thanks for your help. Now, you were talking about seeing and be seen today.
That's right.
As your show theme.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh.
Glass and headlights. Glass, clean inside. I use Rain-X all the way around on the outside, particularly nighttime rainfall conditions. And headlights, aim them right, clean those lenses, and you're doing yourself a favor, and Lord knows the people coming the other way at night are going to love you too. That's all I have on that.
James, that was so good for you to give a tip, because we sort of neglected our thing there.
Yeah, we normally kind of go against our rules.
Yeah. We had so many phone calls, we missed the boat on getting a lot of our see and be seen items. So we will jump back in there and make sure we cover some of those.
Good. Thank you, gentlemen.
And
Thanks,
thank you
James.
very much. Great call. Now, we have Mike over here. And Mike, if you will hold on through the break, then as soon as we return with the C&C Automotive Show, we will be going to you. Well, I take that back. We'll be talking to Michael Rivers.
Yeah.
When we return about the machine shop.
Still want to talk about his F-250.
Mike, so if you'll hold on, after we talk to him, we'll be back, and it is time to. The time clock's on E, so we need to pull over for right now. But we will be back on the road in no time. I'm Aaron Clements with co-host John Ryan Mooney, and our show producers are Joe Irick and Sandy Dean, our technical engineer Zach Llewellyn. And we would each and every one of us like to say thank you so much to those that tuned in, logged in, and especially all of you that called in to ride with us on the C&C Auto Show. And hello, all of you wonderful car lovers out there, and I am Aaron Clements.
I'm John Ryan.
And we have a goal, and that's to share some sweet information that will make your car, truck, or SUV safer and to make it more dependable. We want to say thank you to each and every one of you that logged in or tuned in. We really do appreciate you riding with us with the C&C Auto Show. And we are here to take those phone calls. Saturday morning is 8:05 to 10. And that is Eastern Time, number 706-863-5800. Or you can go to ccautoshow.com, watch the show live, and a whole bunch of other stuff there. And this show is brought to you in part by NGK Spark Plugs. And the number again, 706-863-5800. Got a great show going on. Had a great first hour. Mm-hmm. And now we will be talking more about C&B scene, which we didn't cover a lot last hour because we had so many fantastic phone calls going on there. But we'll be covering that a little bit more during this hour. And we also give a lot of tips. And we have a wonderful guest, and we have a tech tip quiz. But one of the things I was hoping that Michael will do, and I know Michael Rivers very well, and I know he would love for us to do this. Mm-hmm. We have a gentleman that's been waiting on the phone during the break with a question about, what is that, a F-250.
Yep.
And I think it would be great to go to him, and then we will be going to our special guest, Michael Rivers, in just a few minutes. But let's go to Mike.
All right, let's go over to Mike.
Hey, Mike, welcome to the C&C Auto Show, and what can we help you with?
Well, that's good. I guess I got bumped ahead because my name is Mike, too, correct?
That you are correct. We wanted to go to you first because you had been waiting longer, and I'm sure that the other Mike would appreciate us going ahead and
You're
kind of
calling him out on it, so I guess he has to.
Yeah. So we're ready.
Okay, no problem.
Mike, if you would do us a favor though, turn your radio down.
Yep, got it. It's going.
All right. What's your question?
I have a 6.2 liter gas engine in a 2012 F250.
Okay.
I'm going to put a Kohler intake on it and modify the exhaust. Right now, I have duals coming to a single end, 2 ins and 1 out, single out.
Right.
What I want to do is go 2 out. But my question is, should I go X pipe, straight pipe? I mean, not straight pipe, but true duals or X pipe with 2 mufflers on each one of the exhaust.
Well, how loud do you want it?
I want to make some noise.
You do?
But
You do want to make noise, you said?
I want to make some noise.
So
correct.
no doubt true duals would be obviously the louder option because of course you have 4 cylinders one side, 4 cylinders on the other, and having them kind of breathe independently, each cylinder head breathing independently will definitely increase the noise of it. X pipe, in my opinion, it of course obviously balances out the two. Basically the firing order, it kind of evens the sound out, so it's not so much one side versus the other. H pipe does the same. It just doesn't flow as well as an X pipe. So you may gain a little bit more from an X pipe. As far as sound, they both do about the same because they are equalizing each side. So it's kind of a judgment call. The only thing I'll add to that is it's very difficult to get an X pipe under a truck, typically because both the exhausts go down one side and then, of course, Y out towards the rear because you have things like the drive shaft and whatnot in the way. So H pipe may be a better option for you anyways.
Understood.
And as far as mufflers, of course, you would typically do 2 mufflers like they would call a suitcase together. They'd be aside from each other, but both have, each pipe going in and obviously out. So they'd be single in, single out.
Right. I have that. Correct.
Yep.
That's not a problem. Hey, listen, I definitely appreciate your time. I will stand by and wait on the second mic.
Sounds great.
Good.
And we appreciate that very much. We appreciate you holding. Okay, and we mentioned earlier that Bo's Machine Shop's one of the nicest machine shops that I know of. And I'll mention this time that they're also one of the most knowledgeable. Well, Michael there and a lot of the other people there. They're some of the most knowledgeable people that I know in the machine shop business. And that's the reason I asked Michael would he come on and talk with us today. And I see, and one of the reasons for that, I feel like is an example was just the other night. We had a big class. Now this class had to do with Ford EcoBoost, some of the newest technology out there, and just an EcoBoost system. And he was at that class, and you didn't see hardly any. Well, I didn't see anybody else from machine shops there, but he likes to stay up to date. Michael, welcome back to the show.
Hello. Good
Hello.
to be back.
I was going to ask you, why do you go to the classes that have to do with technicians?
Well, I mean, a lot of times I machine a part for an engine, a shop or an individual brings in a cylinder head because they've got a skip on one side of the engine and,
like a Chrysler 3.6.
top to bottom. And when I give it back, the problem's still there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, your technician will develop tunnel vision and, want to blame the head.
Mm-hmm.
And the head won't be the problem. So if I can help direct them to what may be the problem, it's a win for both of us.
Mm-hmm. Plus, if you see some type of damage or something happen in an unusual way, you would probably be able to go back and say, be sure to check this or be sure to check that before you put this back on, because you don't want the head that you just worked on to be ate up again by something that's
like
not,
valve timing or something.
Yeah, like or something wrong with the turbo itself,
right?
Overboost or something in that area. So you're able to give tips, and I've done that many times as far as calling you and talking to you about different issues that may have come up, and said, Michael, do you know what may have caused this problem? And you've been very helpful on saying, be sure to check this or that.
Oh, absolutely. At the end of the day, the more knowledge you have about any given subject, is just a plus. If you, and just like that class, even if I don't get the one thing from it, at the end of the day, it's a plus. That's one thing you didn't know before you went, so.
Well, I want to ask your opinion on this. I thought it was kind of neat. And actually, we have not had those into the shop yet. But some of the 3-cylinder Ford engines, that's amazing that they will have a 3-cylinder engine that produces, one of them 125 horsepower, but there's another one out there that's not here yet that'll produce 200 horsepower with 3 cylinders and be able to kill one of those cylinders going down the expressway. So you're going down the highway or interstate on 2 cylinders going 65, 70 miles an hour. That is amazing.
Yes, it sure is. That's definitely the trend now, is getting more power from the smaller engines, making them more efficient in the process. I'm not a real big fan of the system that cuts the engine back from 3 cylinders to 2. Maybe they have it perfected now, but the past several years, the engines that have done that have
of every manufacturer
quite a few problems.
Well, I think what they found out, now this is some of the classes that I've been to and some of the studies that I've seen, is they found out that combustion and that heat in that cylinder is pretty important to be there. And when you take that away and you have a cold cylinder, it can cause some oiling issues and a lot of other issues there. You probably know a lot more in those areas, but all of that works off of oiling, and that's another reason why people that say, hey, let's go 7, 8, 9, 10,000 miles on the oil, it's not working out so well for many of them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hey, Michael, could you hold through the break? We're going to take a real quick break.
Sure.
All right.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Michael. We are going to take a real quick break, and we will return very shortly, and we'll be going back to Michael. That and more as soon as we return. Oh, and we'll be going to JC also. That and more as soon as we return with the C&C Auto Show.
Now his guitar's Cadillac, hillbilly music.
And we are back with you with the C&C Auto Show, and this segment is brought to you in part by the NGK spark plugs and NTK sensors, and they're one of the most trusted names in the automotive industry. And I'm not sure when your car was tuned up last, but it's a good idea to know. Eventually, spark plugs wear out. You need to replace them. Sensors go bad, so you want to change your plugs and do your maintenance tune-up when it's needed. And also, if you have a sensor that goes bad, be sure to remember NTK sensors. And we were talking to Michael. Michael, welcome back to the show.
Hello.
Yeah. One of the things that we ran into, and I almost dropped the ball and forgot to mention this, and John Reimer reminded me, is there was a person that called during the first hour, and he was asking some questions about a car. And John Ryan has the details here. He'll tell you what the gentleman was talking about.
Yeah, we were just looking to get your input on it, Michael. So he had a 98 model S10 with a 4-cylinder in it. Evidently, it had a issue with the head, so he pulled the head off. And he was asking about, one, like how to prep the surface, obviously, for a new head gasket. And we mentioned to him that no doubt a machine shop would, of course, be the better option, just simply because of the resurfacing. But he, something that I mentioned to him is the only thing he himself couldn't check was, of course, if the cylinder head was cracked. So if you could, maybe just let the listeners know as far as like what procedure is taken, at a machine shop to determine, if it is warped and if it's cracked and kind of if it's a worthy rebuild head or to machine that head.
And he did have a fair amount of miles.
Yeah, he had 300,000 on it. So no doubt
so just your opinion there. Are you seeing those hold up or not?
Those engines are, they're like most other engines. You'll have one that is very well taken care of, and the customer will get tremendous service out of it. Mm-hmm. The next one might not have been maintained as well, and it won't.
Right.
But I agree with basically everything y'all said, where, if the individual's doing it himself, he can take that gamble.
Yeah.
I built an engine this week for a gentleman that it had 275,000 miles on it, and he went into it and put lifters in it and got another 100,000 miles out of it.
Right.
So, it worked for him, and it may not work for this guy, or it may.
Yeah.
Once he gets the head off, if he pays close attention, he ought to be able to kind of inspect the bores and get some idea of the wear in the engine before he goes forward. But
This guy seemed like, from talking to him, he sounds like he probably has taken very nice care of
Oh,
that.
Cliff, yeah,
that
I know him
vehicle.
personally.
Yeah.
He does keep his vehicles up. Yeah,
Yeah, you
absolutely.
can tell. And so if he's taking that good, nicer care, so you are seeing some vehicles, even with those kind of miles, holding a head job okay then. Is that right?
yeah, yes, sir.
Okay.
Like I said, it a lot of factors there. Is the engine consuming any oil now? How hot did it get when the gasket let go, or has it even been overheated?
Right.
At the very minimum, he could bring the head by me, by our shop, and, a visual inspection would be free.
Yeah.
But the first step would definitely be to degrease the head. And that way, sometimes you see a problem before you ever even begin the testing process. But
Yeah, I've
would be
had
an
heads that
aluminum
I've brought by there to you, and you've laid them out before I even leave it with you, and you say, Aaron, there's a crack right there. And so there's no need in leaving
Aaron,
the
you
head
see where my finger went through it?
and doing
Absolutely.
that. And Michael, what I mentioned to people, this show does play in a lot of other areas. And of course, for those that don't have a Bose machine shop to go to, they should go ahead, if they enjoy working on vehicles themselves, or if they're an automotive repair facility, they need to find a good machine shop that they really know about and trust, and has the knowledge that you have, and able to give them information like that and ideas on and share information on what they can do to a vehicle.
Right.
absolutely. Another opinion is, or another fresh set of ideas is always helpful when you're having a problem.
Yeah.
Can save you a lot of money in the end, can't it?
Well, Michael, we really do appreciate you calling in and sharing the information with us, like you always do with me all during the week. Anytime I call you, and again, we appreciate that very much. And so I hope you have a really nice weekend.
Let's try this again
All right,
at some
thanks
point.
so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, Michael, you'll be our call guy when we run into issues. If someone has a question, I'll have your cell phone here, and I'll be able to put you on the air quickly. Is that okay?
Was he going to say
Sure.
no?
Anytime, as long as, right now I'm at home and my reception's kind of spotty, but, if you can get me through, I'll be more than happy to help you however I can.
Oh, that sounds great. We appreciate that.
Thanks, Michael.
All right. Okay, the number to call, 706-863-5800. That's Saturday mornings, 8:05 to 10. We got a couple of minutes. Where we're going, John Ryan?
Well, let's see. JC's been holding for us.
Hey, JC, welcome to the C&C Auto Show, and what can we help you with?
Hey, guys, I just want to know if my service four-wheel drive engine lights come on when I turn my truck on.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to know what that entails as far as servicing and what is the price range for that, so I know what to be looking for.
What kind of vehicle are we talking about?
2012 Dodge Ram.
That message can be a little misconstrued because service four-wheel drive makes you think that, it needs a transfer case service or something like that. But unfortunately, that means that there's an issue with that system. So there's a fault with it. It sees something it doesn't agree with. It could see that it has a bad input speed sensor, brake switch, so many different sensors that control that four-wheel drive, which I've always liked, different messages like, maybe four-wheel drive system fault. That would have been a better option for them to use rather than service four-wheel drive, because that makes it seem like, again, just a maintenance item. But unfortunately, that system won't work. So that's at this point, because of course it does see a fault. So that's the message that pops up.
And it's going to have a code.
It's going to have a code stored in the computer that controls that, of course. And of course, the code would determine, what diagnostic track the technician takes. But JC, unfortunately, that one's going to have an issue with it. So there would be some testing that needs to be done to determine what's going on.
Oh, okay then. Thank you, guys.
All right.
JC, great call. We appreciate the question.
Hated to give them that bad news.
I know, yeah.
Especially on a Saturday, but.
Yeah. and well, I gave good news yesterday. A person come in and their maintenance required light was on, and I was able to say, hey, nothing's wrong. It just needs to be reset. And, of course, check it for an oil change. It is time to take a quick break. When we return, we'll be going to William and Tim, and we'll be sharing more tips.
Yep.
And we didn't even do a tech tip quiz, but that'll be okay. We're doing what we love to do. That's answer questions. We'll do that and a lot more as soon as we return with the C&C Auto Show.
Little GTO, you really looking fine.
And we are back with you with the C&C Auto Show. And if you have a question about your car, truck, or SUV, you just give us a call, 706-863-5800. We are just going to throw the thing out the door as far as all of the other CMB scene that we were talking about, because we hadn't been able to give very many tips on that. We'll probably be bringing
Well,
that
this
back
is the way
next week.
we'd rather it anyways.
We love to take phone calls. That's our favorite part of the show. So we get to enjoy this a huge amount. So we'll just
yeah, but you're still talking. Let's go over to William.
all right, I'll shut up. Hey, William, John Ryan told me to shut up. Is that right?
He said it before I did.
Right, go ahead.
What can we help you with today, William?
Okay, I have a 1997 Ford F-150, and I have a problem with the key chime. It don't want to stop chiming. I've disconnected the wire going up to the ignition switch. I make sure that all the lights are off and everything is off, but it still wants to ding.
And William,
How do I stop it?
is this all the time except for when the key is switched on and the truck's running, or does it do it when it's running too?
William. Did we lose William?
I don't know.
Try him, hit him one more time. Hey, William. William.
I think we did. Let's go to Tim. Let's see if
William
William will come back to us.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Let's try Tim.
Hey, Tim, welcome to the C&C Auto Show. I see you have a Camry. What is that, a 2011 Camry?
That's what I'm looking at.
All right.
It's not a 1911.
And what can we help you with on that Camry, Tim?
That's something on us.
And that's not good.
Yeah, let's see here. Let me
We may be having issues.
get the yak and I'll reload it.
Okay, all right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to reload this thing up, and I will read a real quick email. Our 2005 Toyota Sienna passenger side headlight lens has suddenly started to leak some rainwater. I have dried it out by removing two bulbs and running a hairdryer at one opening and letting the warm air circulate. Then put a bead of caulk along the top edge covered by the duct tape. And none of this is visible with the hood down. The lens has not been hit or no obvious signs of cracks are visible. Per Google search, this is fairly common complaint on older Siennas and Toyotas. I mentioned that I thought that seal had just gone bad, and just pulling air in, it condensates.
It does.
And you're getting condensation in there. I've never had any success sealing them things.
I have not either, but I will say there's some aftermarket lights out there that there's some instructions with them. You can supposedly, if you fill them with water, obviously it's going to show the opposite. It's going to show where it's leaking, which then you can dry it out after you find the leak. But just like you said, if you seal the leak, even if you run a bead of caulking all the way around it, it's going to leak again. A lot of times it's more of a adhesion problem from the clear lens to the backing of the headlight.
But I found that if you do some research, you can find some that are fairly reasonable, a lot more reasonable than. I wouldn't just buy the first set you see. I would look around because you may be able to get some good price. Okay, we're ready?
Nothing against the OE ones, but a lot of times you can buy just a brand. I'll throw one out, TYC. Everybody says, oh, that's an aftermarket one. Well, you go to the dealer and buy it, and guess what? It's a TYC.
Exactly.
So. All right, let's try these phone calls.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's go over to Tim.
Hey, Tim, welcome to the C&C Auto Show. What can we help with today?
Well, good morning, fellas.
All right, we got the phones back. Thank you.
What can we help you with, Tim? Apparently nothing because we just lost him.
We lost Tim again.
All right,
we're having some phone issues.
Let's try John.
Okay. John, welcome to the C&C Auto Show, and what can we help you with?
Well, good morning. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, we can hear you.
Just stay still.
We are cooking. Yeah, don't move.
Okay, I promise. Just a quick question. You said that when your engine light comes on, check the gas cap. But a lot of the newer cars don't have gas caps. Is there other checks you can make?
Well, yeah, what they're finding on some vehicles now, that they did a great thing. They eliminated the gas cap so that you don't have to worry about whether it's tight or not. Now, when something goes wrong with that area, instead of replacing the gas cap, you replace the whole filler neck.
Yep.
And that's if it is. If the light comes on now, you just pretty much eliminate saying, well, it's going to be a gas cap. High probability it's going to be something different. You can still have a quick scan. Many shops, including ours, will do a quick scan at no charge just to give you an idea of what code may be in there and what you might expect. Now, if let's say it gives the code evap leak, then there's no chance that it's a gas cap leaking. So you're going to automatically want to have a smoke test run, and that's where they introduce smoke into the system to find out what's leaking. So, in other words, you would probably need diagnostics if it comes on.
If I can add something to that too, though, the vehicles with the later model no cap filler necks, most of those vehicles, I can't say 100% of them, but most of them have the software and the screen set up to where it would say, if it is an emissions problem, it'll say service emissions system, check emissions system, rather than it illuminates both the check engine light and gives you a message for a emissions problem. So it's kind of a two-part problem.
Yeah. So if it's just a check engine light, you would need diagnostics, more than likely.
Well, John Ryan brought up another part of the question here. How far are we away from having a little message center in the car that will say, check O2 sensor, or check, this or that?
Well, actually, they had that back, something similar to that even back 10, 15 years ago. Many cars had it set up where they had onboard diagnostics to where you could push two buttons together.
Off and warmer.
Off and warmer on a Cadillac. We remember those well, and then you could push other buttons in sequence and go to the perimeters and actually read each sensor individually, and they would do that. Well, they found out a lot of people was wasting a lot of money because if it said O2 sensor, they'd go buy an O2 sensor. And that's what you have to be careful with, giving the public too much information. Sometimes it can be harmful instead of helpful.
But too, John, keep in mind there's systems out there like OnStar that'll email you the trouble code on a GM. BMW has its own system of very similar things. A lot of them even will schedule you an appointment to a facility, which is okay. I mean, it's a neat thing, but a lot of it, kind of depends on what you're doing with the vehicle too. So.
Well, I pretty much rely on you guys doing that for me, but I was just kind of wondering.
Yeah, but if your light comes on, all you have to do is swing by and have a quick scan. And if we see something that you may be able to clear and it may not come back, there's a few things that happen on computer systems on cars that are much like your home computer. You might get a glitch and you may clear it and it may not come on for another year. Other codes you get are things that you might want to say, well, we really need to pursue that and find out what's wrong. And that's just like you're saying there. That's why it's important to have a shop that you know and trust. And this is regardless of where someone's located as far as listening to this, but have a shop that you know and trust that you can go to and say, this light's on, should I do anything? And you have that good trust on knowing that they're going to give you good information on whether you should have diagnostics run or not.
And I'll throw this out too, John. You may know this, but the other listeners may not. So the only thing to really take into consideration is if that check engine light ever flashes. No doubt, you want to take it serious if it's on, but if it's flashing, that means there's a misfire.
You'll do something quickly.
Yeah, the reason it's flashing is because there's potential damage to the converter or the catalytic converter. So they can't reach out and slap you to like pull you over or anything like that. So they kind of make it just a little bit more priority, and it's not something that you need to shut it off on the highway for by any means. Get to a safe spot and most likely have the vehicle towed, because you can do some serious damage if the check engine light's flashing.
Okay, well, I appreciate it, guys, and enjoy the show.
John, thank you, and appreciate the call. Number to call 706-863-5800. You want to let's go to the next one? And we
can try Greg. We got 2 minutes.
Then if we're not able to answer everything, we'll put them on hold. Hey, Greg, welcome to the show. What can we help you with? Hello, Greg.
Oh man, this is killing us.
Yeah, we having some button issues.
Try it again.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, Greg, we got you. What can we help with?
Okay. I got a 2005 Chevy Tahoe. I'm having trouble putting fuel in it. I've replaced the gas cap as I was told to do, and underneath the bottom, I've replaced that little vent motor that's underneath there. And I'm still having to put it in 10 cents at the time.
So it keeps kicking back on you. Every time you put the pump in there, it just shuts off. The vent valve that you replaced, the vent valve you replaced, you talking about the one at the back of the tank's kind of like a round canister looking thing? Got a red connector on it? And you replaced that and it still does it?
Yes, sir.
No chance of, it sounds crazy. You live out in the woods, dirt daubers or anything like that? We've seen.
I live out in the country, yeah.
We've seen almost similar scenario where somebody replaced their vent valve and it still was doing it. Well, there's a hose that, of course, attaches to it, and dirt daubers will go in there and just completely stop that hose out. So that vent may be working, but the tank may not be venting because of the restriction in that hose. So look extra close in there because really you kind of nailed the two problems that are notorious on that particular
Can he blow
vehicle.
some air through there if it is stopped
Yeah,
up?
you could, and just see if you blow it, or just for make things easier, take the vent hose off of the valve, go fill it up, and see if it works. That would eliminate the hose.
Yeah.
Just as a diagnostic test, I guess you could say.
Yes, sir.
Greg, he did pretty good answering your question and knowing that you live out in the country, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fantastic.
Because I do. I live out. Helps.
All right. If that don't solve the problem, though, give us a call back. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
She's real fine, my 409. She's real fine, my 409.
And welcome back to the C&C Auto Show. And if your service advisor or technicians tells you that you have a computer sensor acting up and you want to know more about it, I recommend going to NGK Spark Plugs USA YouTube channel. They have videos on practically every sensor you can think of, and they give some very clear information on how it works. And that way you can make the decision for yourself on if you think you should have it replaced or not.
Yeah.
John Ryan, where are we going?
Let's see if these things will work for us and go to Tim.
Tim, welcome back to the C&C Auto Show.
Well, good morning, fellas.
All right. And what can we help you with?
Yeah, guys, I've got a 2011 Toyota Camry, and I've got 250-something thousand miles on it, so it's got some miles on it.
You do some driving.
I do. But listen, the question I have is, I think, a common question. That is probably for, I don't know, the last 100,000 maybe. It has had this momentary tick at startup when the engine's cold. 0.5 liter motor. And I understand it's a pretty common thing, and I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about resolving that, how I should address it. I will tell you this, I've had I think a well-informed mechanic tell me to go from the 0-20 oil to 530. What do you think about that tick? Is it detrimental to the car, or
Tim, does the oil change when you have your oil changed? Does it make any difference at all for, like, say, the first 1,000 miles or so, or it's pretty much?
Like, meaning, is it quiet for 1,000 miles?
Yeah, does it quieten down a little bit or change any for that first 1,000 miles after you change your oil?
No.
So it's there pretty much all the time then.
Yeah, it only lasts for maybe a half a second or so.
Okay.
A little more than that, but and that's it. And I've even going on the internet and everything, I heard that Toyota says basically don't worry about it.
Has it gotten any worse since it started doing it 100,000 miles ago?
I don't believe so.
Yeah. Well, Tim, what most likely it is, of course, there's a lot of driven or oil-driven parts on that. That vehicle has variable valve timing that depends on the oil in the upper end of the engine. It has, of course, lifters that are up in the upper end of the engine. That all those components need oil immediately. So the reason they went with 0-20 is for that very reason they went with 0-20 to get the oil up there as fast as possible, because even cold 0-20 oil will definitely get to the top of an engine faster than any oil short of 0.16 now. So as far as switching oil viscosities, unfortunately, I would disagree with that simply because of that fact. If you put a thicker oil in there, 5W30, whatever you choose, 520, it's going to take longer. So that noise is going to happen
It's probably
longer.
not going to solve anything.
Yeah, it's not going to solve anything. And I mean, you'd never really see it, but even the energy conserving side of it, as far as the 0.20, I would stick with that for sure. Now, the only thing that I would suggest to you, like there's a product that we use and really truly believe in, it's a MOA, which is it's a friction modifier made by BG, and what it does is it, of course, cleans those small moving parts. The orifices are almost so thin that you can't even see them. And there again, that's why the oil went thinner. So a friction modifier like the BG MOA would of course go in there and coat all those moving parts with a friction modifier. And of course, what that would do is keep the system oiled, keep the system, lubricated to where that may offset that small noise that you have. Now, I will agree. I've heard that noise on several of them. Some people complain about it. Some people never even heard it before. It's just normal to them. Matter of fact, our Toyota, our shop truck, it's got 150,000 miles. And you can count probably the first 1 or 2 seconds, you're going to hear a valve train noise. But just like Aaron mentioned, it's somewhat normal on those vehicles as they get some miles on them.
I believe I would make sure that the PCV system is working correctly, have that checked, and, of course, do the things John Ryan mentioned there. But other than that, I personally don't think I would spend money going into the engine or doing anything internal in the engine. Since it's not getting any worse, and it would probably do that for the complete life of the engine. Yeah. And different cars besides that particular type engine and different engines out there have done the same thing. I think like Chevrolet
any
trucks
LS,
had it for a while.
Any LS, series truck, 5360.
It's just so hard for them to hit that happy medium of all of the pieces of metal being in one position when it's cold, because they have to also allow for when it heats up and it expands, and sometimes you may have little unusual things like that on engines. So I don't think it's something that I would worry about. And evidently all the things that you're doing right, and you're driving well. I mean, you got 250,000 miles in the car, and that's your main concern.
Yeah.
So you're doing a lot of stuff right. That's for sure.
Well, I appreciate that information and that vote of confidence. And I just, again, Toyota, I understand, says don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. That it could be repaired and within just a short while return.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
And we feel the same way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry a whole lot.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I wanted to call and talk to you guys about, because I know you've been around the vehicles enough to be able to speak with.
Tim, I would like you to try that BGMOA just as kind of like see how it does for us, just to try, because I'd be interested if that quietens the noise down. We use that product on a lot of weird scenarios like this, trying to offset a mechanical noise, and in many cases it definitely makes a difference.
Do you carry that product? Or
Aaron said he was going to give you one for free for calling, so.
I know better than that.
We'll do that.
Yeah, we'll take care of that.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Stop by any of the stores. We'll give you one.
Either one.
Test it. You can be research and development for us.
Well, isn't that nice? I sure will just do that, and I appreciate your help, and keep up the good work, guys. I don't know if you realize how much information you guys share to us who want to know more about how to keep our vehicles going.
Well, we really appreciate that very much, Tim. Thank you for the nice words, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Right, keep up the good work. Talk to you later.
Okay, number to call, 706-863-5800. John Ryan, we got a couple of minutes. Let's go to one of the callers.
Let's see if we can squeeze in a question about a Toyota Tacoma.
Let's do it. Welcome to the C&C Auto Show, and what can we help you with?
Yes, sir. I have a 2007 Tacoma, and it's the Sport Edition Toyota Racing Division.
TRD.
Yeah, TRD. It's a 07, like I said, with 205,000 miles, 12 years old, and I'm now again having trouble with my starter. This will be the third one I've placed on it, including the factory starter, they have only lasted about 3 to 4 years. And I was wondering what could be causing that problem. It acts like the Bendix won't kick in at first, and it takes some irregular number of ignition key turns.
Does it when you
kicks
engage
in.
it, like you mentioned it, you can hear a mechanical thump from the starter. It's just not engaging and rotating.
Right. Sometimes it does
Just a random question: is this
grinding
automatic or manual?
It's an automatic.
Automatic. By any chance, is there a possibility it could have a manual transmission starter on there? I'm just trying to think outside of the box because it's kind of rare to have so many starters on those. And I'm trying to talk through this fast because we're right out of time. But the only other thing I could think of is voltage drops on a starter. Of course, if the negative had high resistance in it, no doubt it's getting half the voltage, whatnot.
Yeah.
If he wants to give us a call at the shop, we can try and cover some more of the details.
There's a lot more.
So.
We might write that down and cover a couple of those items.
Yeah,
next
or
week.
call
or
next
maybe
weekend
call
or
us back
whatever.
next week.
Yeah,
we can cover more. Hey, it's time to go. We're out of time, man. I don't even have time for the ending, so we're just gonna have to say, hey, we will see you next week with more of the C&C Auto Show.